Well, hello guys, and welcome to the Yorkshire Dales National Park. And we've come to an area that I've never really explored before, so I wanted to come to this place first. And this is Aysgarth Waterfalls. Now obviously I've seen a lot of the falls and it's quite busy here today, so I've chosen to come a little bit away from the river to start with and actually focus on a church which is off in the distance here. I'm going to get you back to the back of the camera and press record. So what you should be seeing is, I've got this scene in front of me, I've squared it up in a square format. You've got the church spire off in the distance there with some of these trees round the area here. Well, I've got them on either side, but this side I'm not incorporating too much. I've got a tree off to the left over here which I'm incorporating. There's some nice drama and texture in those clouds above which are kind of adding to it as well. Now I'm going to try a couple of things. I've got the 35 to 70 on at the minute, so I'm in at 70 mil and it's not quite enough, so I'm going to put the 100 to 200 on and get a closer in shot as well. But I'm going to grab this shot first. My ISO 100 f16 at 100th of a second. So right guys, I've put the 100 to 200 on now, and I'm just going to grab this shot because there's a nice cloud behind it again now. I've got a couple with some nice kind of white puffy clouds behind there, and that grey's really setting it off. But yeah, the longer lens is definitely working better for me here. It means that I can get tighter in and get a little less of the distracting kind of walked on grass in the shot. It's more of the longer grass that's off to the left, which I think works really well, but I'm going to have to be quick because it's about to throw it down. And pretty much the same sort of settings as I had before, although ISO 250 I've upped it slightly to get a 200th of a second at f16, and I'm underexposing by about 2 stops just to get this. I'll just show you the back of the screen so you can see what I'm seeing. More or less identical to what it was before. That chapel's off in the middle of the frame. Obviously I'm going to get a lot of raindrops in the shot now, but you'll see what I'm looking at before. And you've got those lovely clouds behind it there. So yeah, just underexposing it because I don't want to blow out those highlights, because it's still quite bright. Even though we've got rain, it's still quite bright in the shot. So I'm going to grab this and I'll pop it up for you now. So as you can see, we've actually moved locations now, and one of the reasons was that previous shot where I got to the church, there was actually some lovely waterfalls and cascades there, but it was so busy. And this is one of the disadvantages of coming out at a weekend, especially to places like this, because they're going to be so busy, especially at this time of year when the kids are off school as well. And even getting a bit to camera filmed was quite a challenge. Anyhow, we've kind of had a bit of a scout about the area and had another drive further down this valley and actually come across this other waterfall, and I actually prefer this. You've got 3 tiers to the waterfall, in fact probably more, that go back, and then there's a little bridge above. And the good thing is here is there isn't too much light coming down from the top, so you haven't got that really bright spot at the top of the falls. I think it's going to be just enough to give it a little bit of point of interest above. However, the one thing I don't like greatly is all this clutter and mess around the bottom of the falls, which is why what I'm going to have to do is go further in and get to the edge of where these rocks are so I can get a cleaner shot. It would be all right if there was just 1 or 2 rocks to kind of make a nice foreground with, or a little bit of a stream running through. But because there's so many rocks on display here, it's going to be really hard to kind of simplify the shot and make something of it. So that's why I want to get further in, closer in, so I can kind of simplify everything. So I'll get set up and get you to the back of the camera. Now, as you can probably see here at the minute, the problem I've now got, we've got a few actually, is number one, it's been chucking it down with rain all day, and now the sun's come out when we've come to do a waterfall, which is the worst possible time. So I'm kind of having to wait for these clouds to roll in and over the sun to give enough shade on this waterfall, because it's just blowing the highlights out. And with that in mind as well, is because this first section of the Cascades of the waterfall is so bright, the ones that are behind it go right into shade when you photograph them. So that's a couple of problems I'm going to have. I'm going to have to kind of wait for the light to settle, and when the light does settle, I think what I'm going to have to do is take an exposure for the first section of waterfall, and then take a second exposure, number one for the foliage, because it does get windy in here every now and then, and it blows that foliage around. And number two, I need to brighten that second falls behind, because it's so far in shade, I'm quite worried that it's going to be quite noisy if I have to really crank that back out. So I'm going to take a couple of shots for both of those, one for this lower fall, another one for the rear fall, and then another shot probably for a faster shutter speed for this foliage here. Now this is a 4:3 aspect ratio. You can see what I've done is if I just increase the exposure slightly so you can see what I'm looking at, you can see I've got this kind of lower pool along the bottom, which I think works a lot better than all these rocks that I had before. You've got that waterfall almost in the middle section of the image, and then above we've got the greenery of the trees, and then the bridge which is behind there. But as you can see, with me increasing that exposure, to get the shutter speed I want for the water, I'm having to take multiple shots, because back there is going to be really deep in shade. So I'm aiming for around about a third of a second, quarter of a second, somewhere around there. But as you can see, if I lower that now, I'm going to be 3 stops under. Now that's not so bad at the minute, because the sun's actually gone off, so I can kind of increase my ISO and get that back in control again. If I just fire a shot off now, hopefully what I'll be able to do is just bring that up and have a look at my histogram and make sure nothing's blowing out. And as you can see, I've got plenty of room to move at that. It's just when these bright highlights of the sun come down, it's a real struggle. The other issue I've got, as you can probably see on the screen, is that I'm getting a lot of raindrops, because as these showers and the clouds move through, it's obviously causing rain on there. Now I've put a polarizing filter on there as well, just to reduce any glare on this pool in front of me. And I just keep wiping it off when taking a shot. But it's all about kind of reacting to the light, because it's ever changing, because it's such kind of volatile conditions. It's just a case of taking a shot, readjusting, taking another shot, and just making sure you have all that information. As well as this 4:3, I've also tried a strip panel just to see what it would look like, and I think that looks quite nice as well. If I just bring that up for you, you'll see there, if I just come out slightly and adjust my composition slightly, I can get the whole of that lower waterfall in and still get the falls behind it as well. But again, adjusting my shutter speeds, not only for the water and the foliage, but also that waterfall that's further back in the distance there as well. So what I'm going to do is pop both shots up on screen for you and see which one you prefer. So guys, we've just kind of made our way further along the road again, and just kind of exploring this whole area really, because it's somewhere we've never really been before. And there was this lovely shot, actually I've just missed one as well because I was rushing around trying to get a film clip for you guys, and then I thought I'd try and take a shot of the steam train coming over this little viaduct down here and completely missed it. But that just goes to show, don't try and do too much at once. Anyway, this shot, which is just on the hillside, is just this old dilapidated barn, and it's got this lovely tree beside it. And as you can see, the clouds are quite nice coming across here today. So I'm going to take you to the back now. There we go. So you should be able to see what I'm seeing. That barn is just kind of almost on that lower third at the cross section, not far off it anyway. That's kind of where I'm placing it. In fact, I've got the barn on the cross section and I'm just focused on the tree. I've got the aspect ratio in 4:3 at the minute because I'm liking the fact that there's all that detail in the sky. Although it's kind of grey clouds, there is actually nice texture in those clouds. So I'm just waiting for the light to actually come across. Every now and then the light comes through and hits the barn and the tree and the landscape that's surrounding it and gives it some real nice depth as well. So at the minute I've got the 100 to 200 on so I can get tight enough in. I'm at ISO 200, a 50th of a second at f16, and because that tree is quite away in the distance, I'm not too concerned about shutter speed really, because you're not really going to notice it. But yeah, I'm just grabbing these shots as they happen and just waiting for that light to come through. Hopefully it does, and when it does, I'll pop the shot up for you. So I just thought I'd show you the shot I missed. Now, hopefully what you should see, if I just increase this exposure so you can actually see the full scene, you can see what attracted me to it. You can see there's this viaduct, and below there's a little barn that's obviously in need of severe repair, but it's got real character. It's a beautiful little barn. You've got those trees around it. You've got obviously the viaduct and the hills off in the distance which are catching beautiful light, and then the clouds. Now obviously to get those clouds in, I was reducing the my shutter speed quite severely to bring it 2 stops under, just so I can keep the detail in those clouds, and just, you know, taking a shot just to capture this light that's hitting the landscape below. But it was so nice when that steam train came through before. It would have been a beautiful shot if I'd captured the moment, but I was rushing around trying to film it and photograph it, and I actually left my 2-second timer on. I'll hold my hands up because I was rushing. I left my 2-second timer on, and of course the steam train disappeared into those trees down there. So with that in mind, because it wasn't a planned shot, it was just spare of the moment thing, it's really a location that I would want to come back to and photograph again. I think it's a nice shot even without the train on there, to be honest. It's got real character about it. There's lots of depth in the image. I've put that barn down in that lower section of the image, and that combined with those trees and everything and that light off in the distance got real character. So that extra element of that steam train coming through, I think would just absolutely blow this image away. But it's an image I'm going to take anyway, even if it's just for a reference shot, just for a location to come back to, so I can kind of look at the timetables when these trains come through, because this is actually the Carlisle to Settle Railway. I can actually time this and come back on a different day, hopefully, when we've got this train coming through, and with any luck we get sort of conditions similar to today where we've got these beautiful clouds rolling through. But yeah, definitely worth coming back to. Well, hopefully you can see from this, guys, we all make mistakes. It happens all the time. We don't always get the shots we plan for. Sometimes we don't react in the right way to shots and we miss them, like I did today. But it just happens, and that's just one of those things. And it's the way that you actually learn and progress, is to make these mistakes and know that how to get out of that situation next time it occurs. Anyway, sorry it's a short video this week. Like and subscribe if you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you on the next video soon. Take care. Bye bye.